All right, welcome to another episode. As Rebecca stated last week, I was sick, so my voice may sound a little off this week, but my name is Moton Hopkins, and I'm kind of going to go over my background with sports and give a little bit of my history. So, just to start off, I started playing football when I was 15, and I retired from professional football when I was about 30. So, about 15 years of football I was blessed to play. And I'll kind of go about through the origin story. So, military brat, didn't really play organized sports growing up in our family because we're moving around a lot. We have a younger brother with autism, and so didn't really get those opportunities. But when I moved to Texas at 15, was able to start playing high school football. Originally, I did not want to play sports, but being a small school, I graduated with 65 people. I was a guy with size, so they talked me into playing football. Started on the offensive side of the ball. Didn't really know what I was doing. Quickly moved to the defensive side of the ball, where they told me just go forward and tackle whoever has the ball. So instantly fell in love with the game. Ended up being pretty good early on. Started out on JV and then made my way over to varsity football. Luckily, we had a really good running back my sophomore year that was getting scouted, and that's how I originally started to get college looks. So had a great high school career, made all area, all state, got a bunch of offers my senior year and junior year of high school, and went on some recruiting trips, and really enjoyed that experience and opportunity. I was able to play in two All-Star games in high school. One was the Texas Coaches Association, which had all the best players in Texas. Many of those guys went on to play Division One football and in professional NFL football, had notable careers, and then played in the San Antonio All-Star game, where I got Defensive Player of the Game, which is pretty cool coming from a small school. From a recruiting trip standpoint, had multiple offers, got letters from almost every school in the country, but ended up having offers from SMU, University of Tulsa, Rice, and New Mexico State. I only took recruiting trips to Rice, SMU, and Tulsa, and eventually ended on Tulsa, just because I had a family vibe. I love the coaching staff there. My host Nelson Coleman, who is one of my really good friends and mentors, and hopefully we can have him and his wife on the podcast at some point in time. Really sold me on the university. It's probably the best decision I could have made. Went to the University of Tulsa, had an opportunity to start playing and starting my freshman year after there were a few injuries. And again, had a great time. I mean, we went to four bowl games when I was at there at the university. Got to play many great football players. For the football fans that know, I got to play Adrian Peterson, D'Angelo Williams, Chris Johnson, Brandon Marshall, Matt Forte. I mean, lots of guys that went on to have long, illustrious NFL careers. Made all conference. We won a bunch of championships and bowl games while I was there at the University of Tulsa, and just again continue to fall in love with the game. Ended up graduating after 4 years with a marketing degree, and had opportunity to play afterwards. So I went to Texas versus Nation All Star game in college after my senior year. Had my pro day at the university. I was a couple votes away from being able to go to the NFL Combine in Indianapolis, but still had a lot of opportunities. Got to have interviews with the Saints. Carolina, I think, was really interested in me at the time. Philadelphia and Atlanta. Eventually, when the pro day came, um, performed well. I didn't run the 40 that I wanted to, and I think that had an impact on my draft stock. But going into the NFL draft, was still able to get a lot of phone calls. Carolina Panthers called me the day before and said, "Hey, we're not going to take you the first day." I wasn't a first round guy, of course, but sit tight for later rounds. So this part of the story is, I mean, really, it's tough for those that know. It's very difficult going through that process, not knowing but wanting to live out your dream. And so eventually, I did not end up getting drafted. The guy that was supposed to go first on the rankings ended up, not going first, and it kind of kicked everybody down. I forgot to mention I was ranked at the time, I think 35th in the nation at my DN position. And so that kind of bumped everyone down. So didn't end up getting drafted. That was really tough pill to swallow, but did get a workout tryout basis opportunity with the Buffalo Bills. So I went out to New York, had a workout tryout there. Great organization, extremely professional. And they gave me a shot. They ended up selecting somebody else. I think it was a DN from Nebraska that they ended up picking. It's about 6'6", a little more height than me, but I had another opportunity, so I couldn't complain. Ended up coming back home. The tough part about that was I think a lot of athletes, and this could probably be a whole nother podcast, there's a lot of identity in sports when you play it for so long, right? So it's like, what am I if I'm not an athlete? And I think it kind of happens naturally. It's just human nature. And so I was dealing with a bit of that. People with the right intentions were constantly asking me, like, hey, what are you doing here? What's the plan? I thought you're gonna play ball, but that was difficult at the time to, I think, hear constantly and deal with while coping and trying to understand, okay, what's the next step? What am I gonna do? So I eventually talked to my parents. I said, hey, I have my degree. I'm blessed. I'm in a good position, but I really want to play ball. I'm going to give myself one more year, go through the pro day process again, try to get scouted for the next football season. And then if that doesn't work out, I'm done. So they were all in. I ended up moving back to Tulsa um, to work and train at the university. I was still great relationship with the coaching staff. I crashed on a old teammate's couch on the university campus, which probably wasn't supposed to do, but I did it. Was working at a car dealership selling used cars, new cars, at a Chrysler Jeep Dodge out there on Memorial on 71st, and it was just scraping by, working out, trying to feed myself. I didn't want to ask anything from my parents, and I did that for about a year. Went back to the pro day. Tulsa let me go back to the pro day with the guys that were coming out from that draft year. Again, performed well, but didn't really get any sniffs. I'd been sitting out a year. And then, that was kind of it. So I didn't get any offers. My agent was still working hard for me. Ended up moving back to San Antonio with my parents. And this was maybe in June, mid June. At this point in time, I was actually online on monster.com looking for a job. And funny enough, my phone rings. It said from Winnipeg, Canada. I picked it up. And Ross Hodgkinson was a assistant GM out there saying, hey, I got your name from your old coach, Coach Randolph. We need a defensive tackle. Are you interested in playing ball? I was like, yeah. He's like, are you in shape? I said, yeah. He's like, can you be out here tomorrow? I said, okay, yeah. So I told mom and dad. They sent a contract over to my agent. Got that done. They booked me a flight. I packed my bags and I was in Canada the next day. New
Just want to take a quick break from today's episode and talk about our sponsors, Jane. For those of you who know me, you know that I started my practice 4 years ago. And when I was introduced to different practice management softwares, there were so many options in the market, and I was looking for something that was going to help me streamline my practice, automate my practice, something that was going to be user friendly and give me all the support I need as a solo provider. So, long story short, I decided to go with Jane. If you're new to Jane, you've never heard about Jane before, Jane is an all in one health and wellness practice management software that literally runs your practice from A to Z. It does things like scheduling appointments. It'll take care of online bookings, your billing, your insurance. It automates every little thing that you can think of. And the best thing about them is that they have the best customer service. I can give them a call and know that someone is going to answer, and it's an actual person that answers. And I know that they're going to help me right there on the spot. So, don't even think about another platform, you guys, because this is it. It's going to help take care of everything for you so that you can focus more on your clients and your patients and be the best doctor you can be. So use our code Hopkins 1 month for your first month free and try it out for yourself.
country, brand new place where I didn't know anybody, and fought for a roster spot. When they had already started camp, so I got there a little late. Went through two preseason games. It was between me and another guy, and I ended up getting hurt my last preseason game, and that's pretty much a wrap. But did my MCL. They sent me off to get some testing done, and essentially, if it was a significant injury, they would have chosen the other guy, and that would have been it for me, I think. But it wasn't hurt enough to where I was still going to be fine. I could still play through it. So luckily, I ended up making the team, and that's where my CFL career started out in Winnipeg, Manitoba. So that was 2010. Was blessed to play a long career in Canada. I ended up retiring in 2017. Throughout that time, there were some great seasons. There were some really bad seasons, but it was a blessing all around. Ended up moving around. So in 2011, after my first year in Winnipeg, I ended up getting cut. And the story how I got cut is pretty interesting. So we go through camp, preseason, everything's going well. you're in the meeting in the big meeting room saying, "Hey, this is everybody that made it." So at that point, you think you made it. You didn't get a call. It's one of the most stressful times, kind of sitting around waiting to see if your phone rings, where they tell you to bring your stuff, and then see you later, as you guys kind of see on Hard Knocks and stuff like that. But was in that, hey, you made the team meeting. It was great. It said, hey, everybody go fill out all your paperwork for your tax stuff, go to the locker room, do whatever you got to do. We'll get ready for week one. As I'm walking back to the locker, one of the coaches like, hey, Mo, what are you doing here? I was like, nothing, coach, just going to the locker. He's like, hey, why don't you come in the office real quick? And so he sits me down. He's like, hey, I guess nobody communicated to you. I'm sorry about that, but we ended up putting you on waivers. And so I was like, all right, like, what does that mean? It's my second year playing professional football. And he was like, well, we're going to cut you. And, we were going to offer you a practice roster position, but we didn't think you'd take it. So we're just going to kind of leave you out there. So that was a big punch to the stomach, especially after being in that meeting, thinking I made it through one of the toughest times for a pro athlete through that camp and cut period. But they said, hey, sorry about everything. Thanks for everything you did for us. But, send you back to the hotel and we'll get your flight back home tomorrow. So tomorrow turned into 3, 4 days. So I was in the hotel in Winnipeg for about 3, 4 days, and didn't get a phone call. I was staying in communication with my agent. He said, "Hey, I'm trying to get you with a couple other teams that have some interest." I had two practice roster offers from Montreal and I want to say Hamilton, and ended up deciding to go out to Montreal because they had a really good team. I think they won 2 or 3 years back to back, and so it was an opportunity to be on a successful team and hopefully win a championship. So I ended up going to Montreal. Had been celebrating, if you know what I know, you know what I mean, with my teammates in Winnipeg every night because I thought it was gonna be my last night. So I wasn't in the best of shape or condition. I'll leave it at that. But went out there, did my tryouts. They had me do it felt like 20 or 30 pass rushes back to back. I don't know how they ended up signing me after that, but I got signed. Was with Winnipeg or Montreal, I'm sorry, and yeah, kind of went from there. So fortunately, due to some injuries, but fortunate for me, I was able to start that year, get back on the active roster. Had a great season, and that was in 2011. And at the end of that year, I came back, and I was going to be a starter going into 2012. In 2012, that off season, probably one of the best off seasons I ever had. I was in amazing shape. My agent had told me, hey, because of the way you played in 2011, Philly and Atlanta are interested in you again, and so there's probably an opportunity after this season where you can get a NFL workout. And so that really motivated me through the off season. And then maybe about 3 weeks before camp was going to start, I had a pretty significant health situation that almost killed me, and it sucked, man. So I was in the hospital. Um, um, the doctor kind of comes in and says, "Hey, luckily, we've kind of managed everything. You're going to be okay, but you're never going to be able to play football again." And kind of just mic dropped. And again, going back to that identity thing about being an athlete, it was very cold in the way that it happened. And I think, that doctor probably didn't think of it and the impact that it would have on me, but that broke me down. So ended up having to talk to my agent. He talked to the team. They didn't want to put me on injured reserve for that season, not knowing if I was ever going to be able to play again. So they said I have two options. I can either retire or be cut. If I retire and I am able to come back, they still own my rights and I can come back to the team. So opted for the retirement route, trying to get myself back in good health and good shape. It was a blessing I was able to play again after that. But that was another time where football was kind of taken away from me and really abruptly. So that was really difficult to deal with. But I think, it kind of built a lot of adversity, and luckily I was able to stay focused. I had a great network and a great circle. And so going into 2013, I was able to come back and play. Went back to Montreal. Had a great season. I had lost my starting spot, of course, because I didn't play in 12. Was able to get that spot back by the end of the season, and then rolling into 2014, everything's great on the starter again. Life is good. 2014 comes around, and there's a new expansion team in the league, a team called Ottawa, which is the capital in Canada for those that don't know. And they're going to be able to draft players across other teams in this expansion draft as they're trying to grow their team. So I ended up getting drafted. I was the first name called, which was an honor, but at the same time, I was pretty pissed because I'd established myself as a starter. I liked Montreal, the city, my teammates, and That was another big shock to me. Um, but it ended up being a blessing in disguise and probably one of the best situations that could have happened. So that first year we get out to Ottawa, really rough season for me personally. I wasn't starting anymore. Again, I was pretty frustrated, pretty resentful. I was in a good situation in Montreal, got pulled out, didn't really want to be in that position. Unfortunately, like football happens, another injury had happened. And but it gave me an opportunity to play. And then from there on, I started every single game till I retired from 2014 to 2017. Um, we had some great teams in 2015, 2016, ended up going to the championship, where we eventually won. We went in 2015, lost, but we eventually won in 2016 against Calgary. And that's what this ring right here is from. These other two are from college. And I met Rebecca in Ottawa. So that was a blessing. Got to win a championship, got to do a lot of things off the field that impacted a lot of lives, I think, in a positive way. And yeah, in between then, I guess I missed a step here in 2014. 20 between 2014 and 2015, I got another opportunity to try out with the Minnesota Vikings. You already know the end of that story. I didn't end up making the team, but I had another opportunity there, and that was a great blessing, a really cool opportunity. But yeah, I ended up finishing my career in 2016 playing. Retired in 2017. I coached with the team that year. Throughout my kind of football story, I did my MBA in human resources in 2012 when I got sick, and finished in 2016. And so when I retired, the organization really helped me out and allowed me to coach with the team as well as work in the front office from an HR standpoint so I can get some work experience. Um, Ended up retiring, going back to the US in 2018. And we'll probably tie into this story about my transition from sports to the professional world to my job now later on. But yeah, it was a really cool experience. I love sports. It afforded me a lot of opportunities. I was blessed to play about 15 years from high school to the pros, 7 years professionally. Won a lot of championships, got a lot of accolades. Most recently, Ottawa flew us up, I guess in August of this year, because I was named to the All Decade team. So one of the best players in 10 years in my position. And that was great because we were able to bring Zuri and Nova and really kind of close the gap that I have of not being able to play and have my kids watch me. So got to bring Zuri on the field, and it was a really beautiful thing. Um, so yeah, that's my story. That's my sports background. It's an up and down battle. I think if you can take anything away from it, is that adversity is going to happen. But it's about how you persevere. If you love something, if you're passionate about something, continue to do it. 9 times out of 10, if you're doing the right things, God will make a way for you. So thank you for watching this episode. Apologies again for my voice, the way it sounds. But my name is Moton Hopkins. We'll see you on the next episode. And thank you for watching.